Hello again, my friends. My name is Pavlo Lapikov. I'm a fire safety engineer with more than 20 years of experience across nuclear plants, underground mines, high-rise towers, hospitals, schools, and factories. I've inspected, designed, investigated, and trained people in almost every corner of fire safety. And I've seen how systems fail, how codes succeed, and how culture often decides the difference between life and death. That's why I started this journey. Because fire safety is not only about drawings, pipes, and legal codes. It's about philosophy about how we think, how we decide, and how we act when lives are at risk. Behind every line in the code there are people, families, workers, miners, nurses, children, all trusting that someone made the right choice for their safety. But here's the truth. Those choices are often not made by fire or by science. They're made by economics. And that's why this chapter is called, Who Profits When Fire Safety Stops at Enough? The illusion of enough. When a report says meets code, people relax. It sounds official, safe, final. But meets code doesn't mean safe. It means minimum, the lowest level society has agreed to accept. It's not a promise. It's a deal between money, time, and politics. I've seen buildings that passed every inspection on paper. Everything looked perfect. Then a real fire came, and the alarm stayed silent. The sprinklers didn't open. People panicked. It was all safe enough. But enough for whom? Enough for the developer's budget. Enough for the insurer's liability. Enough for the architect's deadline. Because it was never enough for the people inside. I've walked through burnt corridors where the walls were still warm. The reports all said compliant. Yet the sprinklers had corroded shut. The alarms had failed months before. And the people inside never had a chance. That's when I learned something painful. Safe enough is not safety. It's an illusion. And behind every illusion, someone always profits. Developers save money. Manufacturers sell faster. Inspectors meet their quotas. Politicians cut ribbons. And in all that noise of progress, the people who live and work inside carry the risk. When systems fail, fire protection systems exist for one reason: to buy time. Time for people to escape. Time for firefighters to save lives. But what happens when they fail? What if corrosion blocks the pipes? What if the alarm never rings? What if the smoke fans don't start? Then who tells people there's a fire? Who helps them evacuate safely? The code doesn't answer that question. It assumes everything will work. But the real world is not perfect. It rusts, it leaks, it breaks. If you can't answer what happens when it doesn't work, then your building isn't safe, it's just lucky. The hidden enemy of open systems that looked flawless on the outside: clean paint, bright steel, fresh labels. But inside, they were half dead, filled with rust, sludge, and silence. Corrosion is the quiet enemy of fire safety. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It grows in the dark until the day you need water, and nothing comes out. That's why I began thinking differently. What if we could fight corrosion from the inside? What if a small extruder system could circulate a protective chemical through the pipes, keeping the corrosion small enough for water to still flow when lives depend on it? It's not a replacement for maintenance. It's a backup. Because if the code doesn't give us a plan B, we must build one ourselves. Cars and buildings. When you buy a car, you can test it. You start it, drive it, feel it, break it. You trust it because car companies perform crash tests. They destroy cars on purpose so that you can live. But when you walk into a building, you can't test its safety. You can't pull the alarm or open the sprinkler valve. You just trust that someone else did it for you. That's the difference. We crash test cars, but we don't crash test buildings. We only learn what failed after people die. And still, we rebuild, reprint the codes, and move on as if lessons written in smoke can simply fade away. The human side here is something many people forget. The fire protection engineers who design those buildings, one day, they might walk inside them. The companies who maintain the systems, their families might shop or work there. When we say enough, we're not talking about someone else's life. We're talking about our own. That's why fire safety must come from the heart. Because when it's personal, enough is never enough. The profit behind philosophic profit in fire safety isn't always about greed. It's part of our systems, our economy, our budgets, even our national mindset. Economy decides budget. Budget decides standards. Standards decide how much safety a country can afford. Where the economy is strong, safety is usually stronger. But that's only half of the story. The other half is philosophy, how a nation thinks about fire risk and loss. In Sweden, the philosophy is about strategy of fighting fires quickly and efficiently when they happen. In Japan, it's about prevention, stopping the fire before it ever starts. In the United Arab Emirates, it's about protection, building strong systems, advanced control, full containment. But in Canada and the United States, the philosophy often leans toward building, letting it burn, then building again, bigger and newer. That's not just engineering. That's economics. That's culture. So, who profits from your death in a fire? The answer depends on the country you live in. If a nation values life, it builds for prevention. If it values control, it builds for protection. If it values profit, it rebuilds and moves on. Fire safety is more than codes or materials. It's a mirror of a country's philosophy and its conscience. When systems fail, people must rise. When alarms fail, people must become the alarm. When sprinklers fail, leaders must take charge. When corruption says safe enough, conscience must speak louder. Because systems don't save people, people save people. Education turns panic into survival. Communication turns chaos into calm. Culture is what saves lives when technology fails. The promise of safety. So, my friends, who profits when fire safety stops at enough? Everyone who saves money. Everyone who treats compliance like safety. But safety is not a number. It's not paperwork. It's a promise. A promise to care about lives, not just projects. If you're a designer, remember one day, you may stand inside the building you drew. If you're a maintenance worker, remember your family may one day rely on the system you tested. If you're a decision maker, remember your budget line may decide whether someone lives or dies. So don't stop at enough. Ask more questions. Test your systems. Care about people. Because real fire safety doesn't end with the code, it begins where the code stops. Fire safety has never been about walls, pipes, or paperwork. It has always been about people. Your children, your parents, your colleagues, the people you see every day and trust with your life. When we say enough, we're not choosing for strangers, we're choosing for ourselves. That's why acceptable fire risk should never be treated as a number. It's a reflection of how much we care about human life. This is Chapter 6, Who Profits When Fire Safety Stops at Enough? I'm Pavlo Lapikov. Care about lives. Think beyond compliance. And remember, never settle for enough.